there's so many people on the internet trolling Disney all the time. Videos keep popping up into my feed. It's like everybody just cannot. They just have to go after Disney. I don't. I don't get it. Okay, I don't. Everybody was like, "Oh, why doesn't Disney make more original films?" And then Elemental comes out, and people are like, "But not this." Why? Anyway, I'm John Stark from BackMovieGuy.com. Click that subscribe button for more, you know, straight to the point. Uh, for no BS from me, I'm just gonna talk straight talk it like Dolly Parton, and this is a review of Elemental. Um, Anytime I get to review a movie like a Pixar movie, I'm always excited because Pixar, Disney films, guess what? Disney Plus, solid on audio description. This film has audio description because, of course, it does. Because Disney Plus does not fail me when they drop a new title on Disney. I don't have to worry about it. On Hulu, they're gonna have to change their culture, but on Disney Plus, hey, look at that audio description, fantastic. Um, this audio description was made by Deluxe, so kudos to Deluxe for making, and the team, the whole team, for making some really quality audio description that really sounds great too. They have a great narrator here who sounds really delightful. If you have children who are blind or low vision and they have to sit through the film, this is a really nice voice for kids, but it's not grating for adults. You know, it sits right in that perfect spot, so anybody can watch it. Elemental is a film that features the elements, I suppose. Somehow people are like, this is not original because we've seen Elements before. This is just The Last Airbender. This is, I could say The Last Airbender was Captain Planet. How do you feel about that, Airbender fans? Because I've seen that argument before. How do you feel about Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and Heart combining to create Captain Planet? You think your shit's original? It's not. Go away. Thank you. Goodbye. So this is about four element communities: fire, water, wind, and earth. There's no heart here, so Mati is. I know where Mati is. Poor guy. He's probably off spanking that monkey of his. So Elemental has a kind of centers around the story of this shop in the fire district. It's weird to say there's a fire district. But there's Ember, who is our main character for the duration of the film, the one we're going to follow. She has a little bit of a temper problem. She works in her dad's store, and every time she gets a little too heated, she kind of explodes, quite literally, and sets things on fire because she's made of fire. So it's very easy for her to burn things down. And one day, because she's trying not to have this temper problem, because her dad apparently has, I don't know, emphysema or something. Like, he has the cinematic version of emphysema for this world because he's constantly coughing and like smoke is coming out, and he's obviously gonna die soon. He's got something. We don't really go into like the whole medical knowledge of how it works for elements when they contract some sort of disease. They start to die. Anyway, he's it's not things are not looking great for him, and she's worried that he's going to work himself to death if she doesn't get her stuff together and run the store. So she has to work on her temper problem. One day, she goes downstairs and has an outburst, thinking that if she has it like out of mind, out of sight, that everything will be better. And she blows up and causes a pipe to burst, and in comes Wade, who is a inspector, a city inspector, and he starts noticing problems with the pipes, and he's made of water. He's a water person, and obviously fire and water shouldn't mix and don't mix, and that's kind of the movie from there. She has to fix what she broke, which led to a bigger problem of the citations and the store potentially being shut down. So she and Wade go on this journey. First they fight about reporting the business, and she's like, don't, my dad, it'll kill my dad. And the water people cry a lot. They're really emotional. So Wade's like always crying, and he sounds like he's always really emotional. He's always just like, are you telling me that your dad he's gonna die if I turn this in? Like, he's just like, everything he says is just like really, he's just like constantly upset. Meanwhile, Ember has she's very passionate. We'll say that. She's very passionate. Yeah. So, that's, the movie kind of moves through this with how these groups are segregated. It kind of reminded me a little bit of New York back in the day. I'll just say gangs in New York. Did anybody see Gangs in New York, and how the areas were separated by sort of like where you came from as an immigrant? Well, New York kind of used to be a little bit more like, it's a little less like that now. People are a little bit more spread out, but there used to be neighborhoods. I think it's a little bit less like that, but that kind of reminded me of what this is little neighborhoods and pockets, and everybody's got their own sort of vibe and culture, and they don't mix, and they kind of stay in their own little areas. So that's what the film is selling you on, is the immigrant experience, and we get a backstory with Ember's parents. They immigrated here and to give a new life for their daughter, which is the immigrant story. And they're just using elements. They're using this creative way of telling that story in order to get a really relatable story across. There are a lot of people who are going to see Elemental, and it'll speak to them, just like Turning Red spoke to a lot of people. I think Elemental speaks to a lot of people. I also thought Elemental was a better film than Turning Red, because oddly enough, Elemental doesn't have a villain. Elemental doesn't have a batshit crazy mother running around through school hallways screaming about tampons. Like, I guess that's progressive, but damn, can we give her a Xanax? Can she calm down? My controversial anti-Turning Red debate, people didn't quite feel me on that, but Turning Red drove me insane. This is fun. This is fine. I love the voice choices that they picked. They have a lot of unknowns here, a lot of just sort of random voice talent. They didn't go for the celebrities. They went for people who sounded like what they wanted them to sound like. So Ember has this kind of like really husky voice to her, and it totally works for Ember. I love Ember's voice. And it's so anti-Disney princess. Like, Disney princesses didn't sound like this. Disney princesses have this light, bright pop voice, and Ember is kind of like the opposite of that. It's very husky. It sounds a little bit like Emma Stone, but like an ethnic Emma Stone. I don't know the ethnicity of the actress, so I don't want to make a a conclusion, but it sounds a little bit like that. Because her family does have the actors who are her parents have accents, and it's hard with voice actors. I don't want to say that this actress is something that she's not. So I'm going to pass on that. I'm going to pass on that conversation. Wade also sounds like he's really good at crying. So the actor playing Wade, I'm sure he's really good at being sad. Probably the biggest name they pulled in here was Wendy McClendon-Covey to play Gale, who's essentially the most prominent wind person. And Earth. I honestly, there are two Earth characters that have really minimal screen time, and that's kind of where my problem goes. So we did such a really great job establishing fire and water because that's where the two main characters are. But then, like, with Gale and with the Earth people, I was like, so what's their thing? So water people cry a lot, and they're really emotional, obviously, because water and tears. I get it, haha. It's funny. Ember is always hot. She's fire. She has a temper. It's fire. I think there was a Tinder joke in here too, which was great. And they have a lot of really specific references too that are quite solid. She has to eat wood. If she like loses a little bit of her frame, she like chews on wood, which is so appropriate. And meanwhile, on the wind and earth side, I feel like those are really underdeveloped, and I don't really know anything about them or what their personality traits are. There's a little kid who has a lot of energy in Earth, and he keeps trying to hit on Ember, and he just keeps like he grows, like flowers grow off of him, but he has a crush on Ember, and later on we meet somebody else who is from Earth. And they do that sort of like talking really slowly thing. They're like, I have to go home soon. I guess I could do that. Maybe we could do that later, I suppose. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's like, but that's not the kid. So what's the linking point of the personality in Earth? I don't know, because it's underestablished. And Wind, we really only ever meet Gale, to be honest. So I didn't really get a whole lot out of her. She loves sports. Does Wind love? Do the Wind people love sports? Is that their thing? They're very athletic. I don't know. They're so underestablished. It would have been nicer. I think the thing that separates Elemental from being one of the Pixar greats and just being one of the Pixar goods is the fact that it does establish a really strong story between its two leads, but then it kind of leaves out the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, the world building here is not as strong because it has these other two elements that it doesn't really do anything with. It's just kind of like, yeah, wind and earth are two other... You could have just made a movie about fire and water, you know? And that would have been... We didn't really need wind, and we definitely don't need earth. I mean, wind is at least somewhat integral to the plot, but... or is used, I should say, in a scene to make it cooler. But I'm not really sure what earth does here. So... But Ember and Wade have a great relationship together, and Ember's story about an immigrant and feeling like she has to live up to her parents' standards, and the fact that she never takes time for herself to ask herself what she wants to do with her life, and the fact that she feels like she has to take over the family's business whether she wants to or not. This idea of honoring your parents that comes really strong within immigrant communities really plays well in Elemental. And it feels like something fresh and new from Pixar that is woven in a way that kids can easily access it and make it's very palatable for them. So I think that works very well, and I think that's what makes it unique. It's definitely not The Last Airbender, and it's not Captain Planet, because those films did not tackle that experience. That was not what those series were about. So the people who were complaining that this is just Avatar are just, I don't know, silly. And yeah, you know, I guess it's tough because there are so many Pixar scores that are like iconic. I was sitting there listening to Elemental, and I was like, I don't know that I would recognize this score if it was played for me. You know, I mean, if Elemental was played, like if it got a original score nomination and they did like a little cut of it where they were playing the score from Elemental, there's nothing really here that jumped out at me. There's nothing like Michael Giacchino's score for Up that just kind of pops, where you're just like, wow, this is a delightful score. I could listen to this score all day. Elemental just kind of felt like there's some music underneath it, and it's there. And there's like this one pop song that they throw into the song, obviously to try to get a Best Original Song nomination. That song was so dull. I kind of felt bad every time this movie just missed, because there were so many parts of it that worked, and obviously there's somebody working on this film who's putting their heart and soul into Ember's story, and that's why it works. But they didn't look at the bigger picture, and they didn't look at the world around it, and they didn't think to themselves, hey, what can we do here to really make it seem like we've established the world of Elemental. Like, if this was suddenly a world at Disney, what would this look like? And how would we see something more than fire and water? And I think that's probably just the one place where the film lets me down, is in world development. Not in character development, because the two characters for the most amount of screen time are really well developed. And we get to meet their parents, and there's some cringe-worthy moments with Wade's parents where she's like, where his mom like compliments Ember on her ability to speak English. Is it English in this language? I don't know. Are they speaking? I mean, it's English to us because we're like in America, but I don't know what these people would speak. You know, like in terms of elemental languages. Whatever she does it very well. But yeah, it's that sort of not quite understanding and saying the wrong things to people who just don't look like you, and being like, wow, it's so good that you can speak English. And it's like, yeah, it's amazing that I'm good at speaking the language I've been speaking my whole life. Congratulations. You know, so it explores a little bit of casual racism, a little bit there too. Just a little bit of that sort of like immediately looking at somebody and being like, that person can't possibly speak English. Oh, they do speak English. Wow. Okay then. And I will say that the film does have a nice little sort of ending to it that I liked, and it has a much more believable ending. Sometimes it didn't get me though. I didn't emotionally get there, and I don't know why. I've gotten there with other Pixar movies, and I don't know why I didn't get there. And I just didn't. It didn't make me I didn't cry, but I did appreciate it. I appreciated the commitment to the idea of the ending. There are certain moments, if I say what it is, it'll be really obvious what happens at the end of this film. But there are certain Pixar movies that have like an ending where there's like a situation and you're like, oh no. And then you're like, are they going to do this? Is this really going to happen? And it really makes you believe, because they really commit to it, the idea that this has happened. So if you're really emotionally invested in Elemental, there's a chance this movie will make you cry, because this movie has that ability. It did make me cry though. But I did like the relationship. I love how when they started exploring how fire and water mix, that they can. Everybody says that they can't. And again, I feel like this goes totally into just the way our cultures work, and how there are so many people out there that believe that we have to stay with our people. We can't mix. And this is woven in an Elemental. I don't know. I hear the term so much. The popularization of using woke as a negative term, and now I'm starting to hear like unwoke. I'm unwoke. Is it that you're asleep? Like, like, what does that mean? I don't know. I feel like there are people who hate this film just because they hate things like this now. And I think that's really sad, because I think there's a story here that's told, and I think it's told a lot better than Turning Red. I'm sorry. I'm going to die on that hill. I think there are parts of Turning Red that work, but I think Turning Red went way too far with it. Does Ember have a mom? She does. Is she over the top and dominating the entire story? No, she's not. Are they able to tell a cohesive story between Ember and her mom, Cinder? Yeah, they are. And they have a good relationship. And they have conversations about certain things. And Cinder shows up when necessary. And is she really invested in her daughter's future and in her daughter falling in love with somebody and finding yeah, all of that stuff. But is it too much? Is it over the top? Does it dominate the story? Does it take over? No, it never does that. It just feels like a mother-daughter relationship that she's just encouraging Ember to get out there and find somebody, and that's it. And then when she thinks Ember has found somebody, she's really intrigued to know who this person is. But it all kind of works. The audio description is delightful. I did have maybe some I had like a couple questions just in general with how things work, but conceptually, and those could be things that I don't know if they're necessarily the fault of the audio description, but I did kind of feel like I wanted a little bit more of an understanding of what these people look like, and how they sort of maintain their body type. You know what I'm saying? Like, Wade is literally just consisted of water, and he's like congealed together, but he wears clothes, which is interesting to me. And then the other thing is like Ember. Like, there was a scene where it's meant to be really sweet, and Ember comes in, and her dad is asleep from a hard day's work. He just kind of fell asleep while doing some work in the store, and she puts a blanket over him, and I'm like, if he's made of fire, aren't you suffocating him? Are you trying to murder your father? So there are like some conceptual choices where sometimes the director's team makes a really good push for something interesting. Like, for example, the fact that when fire people need fuel, they eat wood, because wood fuels fire. So kudos. Other times they're like, oh, well, this would seem like a really nice thing for her to do. Again, doesn't that put the fire out? So there's a chance that things like that were not described very well to me, about maybe like the specificity behind the blanket and why it doesn't kill her father. But at the same time, I was kind of like, how is this working? Um, is it flame retardant? Even if it's flame retardant, I would think putting a blanket on top of fire would still put it out. So, yeah, I had some thoughts. But I think those are mostly, again, in the concept of world building, which is like which is what I think is like the weakest part of this film. Is I wanted to know more about Elemental and more about the world. The film does have an appropriate runtime, an hour and 40 minutes. So I don't know that necessarily we need to make it longer. I just think a better script would have intertwined the world building better than they did here. So, all that being said, I feel like a lot of really unfair stuff has been thrown against Elemental. And I can tell you right now, I like Elemental more than several Pixar movies. It's better than Cars 2, for sure. I liked it better than The Good Dinosaur. I liked it better than Turning Red. I liked it better than Toy Story 4, the unnecessary sequel, which we don't talk about enough, about how unnecessary that sequel was. So, like, there's a couple films right there, without me having to go through the entire Pixar catalog and figure out where does this rank. But just off the top of my head, this is not the worst Pixar film out there. However, it's also not the best. So I'm going to give Elemental a B. Yeah, I think they do a lot of good stuff with the lead characters. The immigrant story hits really hard, but I wanted so much more from this world. It's like, I was so interested in this thing that they had created. And no, I didn't walk into it going, ugh, it's The Last Airbender, which I've seen, by the way. So for any Avatar fans who are like, you obviously didn't watch. Yes, I've watched Avatar and I watched The Legend of Korra. So calm down and stop saying that Elemental is Avatar, because it's not. But yeah, it's not my favorite Pixar movie, but it's not in the world. It's in the middle, somewhere in the middle. That's fine. You know, we can't all hit home runs all the time, and for some people, I think this will be above a B. For some people, this is going to speak right to them. It's going to feel like somebody's jumping out of the screen and being like, this is your story. Don't you feel this experience? People are like, yes, this is my experience. My parents just immigrated here and I'm working in their restaurant, and I don't want to inherit their restaurant, but I want to do something else, but I can't tell them because it'll break their heart. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Give Elemental a chance. It's worth it. It's not. I don't know why we have so many Disney haters nowadays. Stop with it. Just enjoy it. Disney's fine. No studio makes perfect films. There are some crappy A24 films out there. Even the A24 community is having to reckon with that not every A24 film is amazing. So, yeah, there you go. I also have a website, backthemovieguy.com. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram, all at MacMovieGuy. And you can go to the audio the ADNA, ADNA.org. And it'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will be doing another review. I will see you guys on the other side.